Hey guys, it's Cap here for Esports GG. I'm going to talk a little bit about the upcoming Singapore Major, because it has been a year without any international lands for Dota 2, and we're finally going to be kicking things back into gear with the upcoming Major, the first Major of the 2021 season. The Major begins with a mini tournament called the Wildcard stage, where 6 teams from some of the stronger regions will battle for only 2 slots to the Major, and that's what I want to talk about today. We're going to talk about who the teams are, how they qualified, go over some of their strengths and weaknesses, and I'll also predict where I think they'll end up placing. So let's go ahead and start with the European teams. Team Nigma and Team Liquid. Coming from the strongest region, Nigma finished with a 10-8 record in games. Liquid, on the other hand, went 8-9, but to qualify for the 4th and final slot, they also had to grind out a 3-way tiebreaker against OG and Tundra, which they ultimately won. Now, Nigma is without a doubt one of the toughest teams to face at a TI, but the question is whether or not they're in peak shape for the Major. Nigma's run in the DPC ended successfully due to 2 very clutch victories at the start of the season. The first was their opening 2-1 win against Alliance, the second was their 2-1 win over Liquid, which included a comeback in Game 3. It was a strong start to the season, but they ended up dropping some games against Viking GG as well as OG. Now, unfortunately, none of this really matters because these matches are anywhere from a month to 2 months old by the time they're going to play in Singapore. So I'd say the next step is we got to take a look at some of Nigma's history as a team. And unfortunately, that doesn't give us a whole lot of confidence either. Historically, Nigma's had very slow starts at the beginning of every season, such as their 16th placement at Dream League for the 2019 season, and then losing to the South American team Beast Coast to place 12th at Dream League again the following year in the unfinished 2020 season. On top of that, Nigma's tendency to lose the first game in a series and adapt from there also doesn't bode well in a wildcard format, which is round-robin 2-game series. Again, one of the absolute best teams the closer we get to TI, but notorious with their slow start to things. Then, on top of everything else, Nigma will also be missing their offlaner Mind Control, who will be replaced by their coach RMN. Now, Nigma have played with RMN before, but that was as a replacement to Kuroki. Here, one of these 2 support players is going to have to take up a core role, which is a pretty dramatic change. Ultimately, lower bracket may be for bitches, but the wildcard tournament doesn't really afford that kind of forgiveness. With a losing scoreline of 8-9, Liquid doesn't exactly inspire a ton of confidence either. Fortunately, the pandemic season has been a time where Liquid has shined. Not only were they one of the few teams to beat a totally dominant Secret, but they were also the only team outside of Secret and Virtus Pro to win a big European tournament during this period, ESL 1 Germany. Liquid is also a team that is known for their versatility and their cheese, 2 very strong tools to have at a 2-game series format against teams who are probably inexperienced with your playstyle. Whether it's Mickey playing a weird hero in the safe lane, Boxy playing a signature Timbersaw, or Koifa cheesing them with a Broodmother or Lone Druid pick, Liquid is a headache to prepare against, which gives them a huge edge when it comes to some of the non-European teams. Because of this, I actually favor Liquid over the TI champs, despite their placement at the DPC being a bit lower. Now, yet another team who clutched a tie-breaking match for a wildcard slot is AS Monaco Gambit from CIS. During the DPC, this team was clearly one of the better teams in the Eastern European division, but there was still a considerable gap between them and the eventual champions Virtus Pro. No single player on this roster could you point to as being the best in their role in CIS. That is, until a roster change was made midway through the season where Gambit dropped their mid laner FN and picked up star player No One, who was known as being one of the best mid-laning players in the world when it came to 2017 and 2018. Now, with this upgrade, AS Monaco Gambit is a decent dark horse, but ultimately not quite one of my favorites. Now, when it comes to roster changes going into this tournament, no team made a bigger upgrade on paper than T1. Despite a solid run of 11-7 in a very tight group stage, T1 ended up in the wild card after losing a tiebreaker to Neon Esports, a team they had previously beat. It was shortly after that their carry player Jackie was dropped in favor of 23 Savage, a potential superstar in the making who has been highly sought after since 2019. While he may have the MMR to back up the hype, the results just aren't there yet. Considering their preference for hard carries and long games, T1 will be leaning heavily on 23 Savage's performance to carry them to the next stage of the Major. Unfortunately, we also just learned that their offlane player Cuckoo is also sick and will be replaced by Forev, further putting doubt in their success for the wildcard stage. Now, while Europe may be the strongest region, China looks like it could be coming back with a vengeance. The super team Elephant didn't even qualify for the major and ended up getting beat out by both Vici Gaming and PSG LGD for slots to the major. Vici Gaming, who got third, comprises of a number of tier 2 players, including their new carry, Poyoyoyo, who is relatively new to the scene. Their offlane Old 11 is especially known for his volatility, someone who can win games for you just as easily as lose them. That said, it's Ori who has been the standout player for me, as he has been a paragon of consistent growth. Previously considered the weakest player on the team back in 2017, he has quietly grown to be one of the best, culminating in a very strong performance for this season of the DPC. While the individual names won't inspire images of greatness, their run at the DPC was very solid. They only lost to IG and LGD while getting 2-0 over everyone else. They're a strong team, but unfortunately this wildcard stage is brutal, and I don't believe that this team's ceiling can reach quite as high as some of the others in this tournament. Which leaves me with LGD. Another 4th place team that won a tiebreaker to get into the major. LGD actually ended with a very solid record of 11-7, managing to take a game off of every team that beat them in a series. Their record may not be as good as Vici Gaming's, but I believe anyway that their ceiling is significantly higher, both as a team and when it comes to individuals. LGD has been one of the teams vying for supremacy in China and has several grand final appearances where they've had more wins than losses. Add to the fact that this lineup comprises of TI6 champions Faith Beyond and Y, and has a star carry player in Ame, it's very easy to back a lineup like this as my favorite for this wildcard tournament. Ultimately, this clash in the wildcard series is exciting because we just don't know what teams and what regions are going to be showing up strong. My prediction is that Liquid and LGD will make it through, with Vici Gaming and T1 falling just shy. But no matter who makes it through this wildcard tournament, I'm very confident that whatever team does will use this momentum and just dominate the group stage and potentially make a long run through the playoffs as well. Now, the Singapore Major gets underway March 27th, and we'll be covering more of it here on Esports GG.